let's let that cool down and we'll come back to it if we can. And I think like 2 years later, they tried again, and this one is what became of course, the legendary Linda Carter, Wonder Woman television show. And it's funny because, hey, let's just, you go to the original story. Let's take the Greek mythology. Let's, base it on the Wonder Woman everybody knows. And of course, lo and behold, that becomes the Wonder Woman TV show that everybody knows. And holy crap, does Linda Carter ever age? That woman still looks good. She can probably still play Wonder Woman to this day. Okay, so we got this. So this would be, I guess, our introduction to... And I like it that it's not NYU. They can have Marvel Comics based in New York, but certain landmarks still needs to change. I believe NYU is called Empire University, because I guess New York is greedy and you need to pay them to use the name NYU. But Empire University still works.
It's fine, Parker. I invented this equipment. I think I can handle it.
Hey, Peter, I'm trying to master the skill of hentai tentacle arms. Oh no! Okay. Very interesting, and I swear, it's really... is it... No, not Ultimate Spider-Man. I forget what his version of Spider-Man is, where Doc Ock takes Spider-Man. Superior Spider-Man! There we go, Superior Spider-Man. And again, what's always interesting about certain fandoms? Like, people were rioting when, the whole Brand New Day, One More Day storyline where they reset Spider-Man's marriage to Mary Jane. Everything still happens, but things slightly change.
Is anyone hurt?
Certain characters come back from the dead, except for Uncle Ben, and he'll always stay dead. But the fact that fans say, "Oh my God, I'm dropping this series. I can never. How can Spider-Man and his marriage to MJ just because you guys want to create new interesting stories, but you can't because the character is married?" Like, you can probably still make some Spider-Man stories if he was still married. But, you can also make some interesting stories also if he was divorced, things like that. And those things never bothered me, because if it doesn't do well, hey, guess what? We'll just revert back to what it was. Like, again, the whole Superior Spider-Man story, where Peter Parker switches bodies with Doc Ock, and Doc Ock switches bodies with Peter Parker. And Peter Parker supposedly dies in the body, in the shell of Doc Ock, who, years of being... He literally is only a human with robotic arms who do his bidding. And considering how, all the abuse he's taken over the years, his body slowly starts breaking down, which is fine. Okay, that's cool. What is this? Is this a mini game? What am I doing here? Davies Industries. Oh, okay. So it is kind of like a mini game.
Circuit burned out.
Okay. Okay. As I try to focus, I'll try to talk on this. But the thing that I never base my decisions of loving or hating a thing until I, in comics, that Spider-Man and Mary Jane will eventually get together again. They'll just change it. Hey, guess what? Peter Parker will be back in his body, and Doc Ock will return into a new body, a clone body. It'll be like nothing ever happens. Comics have a way of returning back to status quo, one way or the other. It always frustrates me, that certain fans already starts boycotting. Like, oh my God, I can't believe they're doing this. How can they, bastardize or whatever? It's like, dude, calm down. If it doesn't sell well, it'll go back to status quo. Or, hey, guess what? how do you know that the writer himself wasn't planning to go back to this route to begin with? Oh, I think I did this wrong. Okay, yeah, I definitely did this wrong. Like, how do you know that the writer has been planning all along to go back to this route? Like, again, the Superior Spider-Man storyline where, you know, Doc Ock inhabits Peter Parker's, you know, Peter Puppy? No, Peter Parker's, you know, body, you know, and, you know, Peter regains his body again. Because guess what? His consciousness still remains. Again, even though it's a mind switch, you can always have it that it's just a suppressed thing or whatever. And guess what?
Okay.
Peter's, you know, mind was suppressed inside his mind under Otto's control or whatnot. You know, whatever. Like, you know, A, how do you not know that, again, it won't go back to status quo? Or B, how do you know that the writer wasn't planning to go back to status quo to begin with? Like, the long story of it. Okay, I don't think I'm doing this right. Either way, I'll learn as I go along. And it's fun to know that, you know, people always gotta be throwing the negative. Okay, yeah, I definitely am doing something. Like, people are quick to judge on that without even trying. A, given it a try, or B, you know, like, you know, seeing where it goes in the long haul of it all. You know, and again, it's not. I'm not trying to convince you to give these things. Again, it's up to you. If you don't want to do it, don't support it. Hey, guess what? Either it goes back to status quo, it was planned to go that way anyway, or B, hey, it's not selling well. Let's go back to, you know, let's make a 180 of it and go back to where before we left off, you know?
Good as new.
Oh, great. I created his wanking arm. Can I animate it? Hold on. Oh, dang. Okay. You're gonna be a bad motherfucker, Murphy.
He asked me to review his work if I had time. May as well dig in now.
We were able to save his arm. No, what did I say? We need to make a completely new arm. Which is funny when you watch the remake of Robocop, and then you remember that one line they mentioned in the original, that they say, oh, we can save his arm. Like, no, we want full, complete robotics on it. And yet in the remake, they said, yeah, we'll save his arm. We saved his hand. The only, like, good scene in the Robocop remake was that, like, 3-minute, 5-minute scene where Murphy, you know, has his whole robotic body removed, and the only human parts to him are his face, his brain, his heart, of course, and his one hand. Everything else is robotic. And again, they approached it so wrong. They didn't get the message of Robocop. It's always frustrating. The thing about Robocop is it's a robot it's a man who was turned into a robot who slowly regains his humanity. While the remake, he had everything. He still remembered everything. He's still like, okay, so what's the end game of that? If he knew it all along. You know, his family showed emotions, things like that. Like, no, nothing.
Material for the
oh, another mini game? Okay. So I'm guessing patterns. Everything's about patterns. Oh, hey. The thing I never, like, got me, like, people always make remakes, reboots, and whatnot. And I can understand for certain, you know, I'm the believer of, like, give some things some time before you start remaking them. Don't literally make already a remake like 2 months after the last movie didn't do well to your Hollywood or, you know, executive expectations. Whatever. Again, I'm not in Hollywood. I don't know how they work.
Keep looking for other materials.
If anything, like, remake Chud 2, Bud the Chud.
Right.
I'm not going to let go of this because the fact that Chud, the first one, Cannibalistic Humanoid Underground Dwellers, was actually an enjoyable film. The special effects were good. The gore effects were great. everything else seemed to work. And then they made a sequel that was a complete opposite. It was a sequel by name only. Aside from the cover art of the VHS looking awesome, it's like it's a comedy. Bud the Chud. It sounds like one of those 1980s college flicks. I guess I'm pretty done here. I don't think there's nothing for me rest to explore, so I might as well just get the hell out of here. It's always weird. It's always funny in the 80s when they make these college movies with girls who at least somewhat look their age, while the guys are played by dudes in their mid-30s. Did you know there was an actual Animal House sequel? Animal House television series. I think it was called Alpha Beta House or Beta House. Again, I never watched it, but the fact that people try to make sequels or television shows based off on popular franchises, good, we got our Rogues Gallery here, or Sinister 5. I always found it weird that the Spider-Man animated series in the 90s on Fox called them the Insidious 6 rather than the Sinister 6, because Fox and their censor boards or their group meetings said that apparently, I guess, the word sinister sounded sinister or not kid friendly, which is weird. There are a bunch of group villains.
The two-time Pulitzer Prize-winning former publisher of the Daily Bugle. Hey, plug the book. And as always, if you order Mr. Jameson's book, Spider-Man, Threat or Menace, within 24 hours of our broadcast, you'll get an autographed copy at no extra charge. No personalizations. Don't ask. Not gonna get it. Welcome to
JJ.
With J. Jonah Jameson, alerting you to the threats you don't even know about. Let's dive right into the calls. Speak.
Okay, so not for nothing. You gotta give Spider-Man respect for taking
Not
down
for nothing, Cole.
right? I mean, one less mob boss is good for everyone.
Is that right? Tell me, are you a police officer? Prosecutor? Maybe an award-winning reporter with decades on the job like me?
No, I'm a plumber.
Oh, good. Then fix my toilet and shut up! Let me explain something to you about crime bosses. As soon as one goes down, every punk with a gun, a tracksuit, and a drawer full of gold chains decides he's the next godfather. We're gonna have a gang war in the streets, but does that whip-headed moron give a damn? Of course not. He got on TV. That's what counts.
Yeah, well, I can get copper pipe without paying kickback. So till that gang war starts, I'm on the whip-head side.
And you'll be singing a different tune when 3 new mobs are lining up to charge you triple for that same pipe. Or just break your legs. Goodbye!
Someday, Jonah.
Oh,
I'm gonna get you to
JJ.
say something nice about me. Someday.
Oh, but what the heck was I? I was distracted by listening to J. Jonah Jameson's podcast, that We Hate Spider-Man podcast. Oh boy! Although things like that work, that revisionist things do work when you approach it that way. Yeah, you can't have people say newspapers don't, are a passe. So okay, create a news network. There are ways you can, update the story. Things like that work.
That I need a break from
Again, J. Jonah Jameson. Now he's a Bill O'Reilly, whatever type of personality who does podcasting. Hey, that works. Being, the head of a, printing,
Worth it though, right?
publishing newspaper, maybe it was passe. You can still kind of get away with it. I mean, we still have the New York Times, but
How?
and people still read newspapers on the subway. But if you had, you can still change it slightly, alter it to fit, semi-modern times, which is why I don't mind certain things being rebooted. I guess to fit the time frame or to fit, whatever era or period you're trying to express. Like this looks like it's based on current, which is fine.
You buy it.
And things
I
like
thought
that.
You trusted me.
There's a way to take care of, honor the original, origins of it,
Put Vans up in shift.
and still, have the spirit of it. So yay, newspapers, okay, they're dull. They're things of the past, even though I still at times read newspapers and I still read magazines. But for others, for maybe a large majority, they have podcasts or news network outlets, whatever. Heck, I used to remember public access, and I used to see a bunch of stuff. Heck, I got exposed to Japanese wrestling because I watched an old public access show called not the Concrete Report, the Canvas. I think the Canvas Report, the Canvas something. And one of the things they showed was not Hakushi. He was known as Hakushi in the WWF. Shinsei Shinsaki versus the Great Muta. It was a bloody affair. But that's what exposed me to Japanese wrestling, and after that, tape trading, RF videos, things like that, which is I guess why I'm considered a mark. But I'm not one of those guys that either gatekeeps or chooses a side when it comes to it. I enjoy all, and the more variety, the more is there to enjoy. Just because you don't like one thing, hey, guess what? There's other options. Just as long as, like what you like, just don't be a dick about it. I guess. Definitely shout out to Brian Zane in Wrestling with Regret for that line, because that makes so much sense. Like, love what you love, enjoy what you enjoy, just don't be a dick about it, and, don't be an ass. Like, again, the console wars. I can't believe we're still in the whole console war. Things like, the PC Master Race, or, this console's better than this console, or this wrestling company's better than this console, this wrestling company, or whatever. Like, really? Do we really need that? That's like saying, like, ooh, Charmin, Charmin 2-ply paper towel is better than the 79-cent, a dollar store knockoff and stuff like that. Like, doesn't care. Toilet paper's toilet paper. Just use it. I don't care if it's, sponsored by a bear or, found at the dollar value store toilet paper versus, name brand 2-ply. Like, it works the same way.
Get away from
like,
her.
Okay. Like video games, like, it doesn't matter what console it is, as long as you enjoy it. I don't know, out of nowhere, like, let's say you have an E3 presentation. Okay, I'm not gonna survive this one. Okay, I'm not gonna make this. I'm not gonna be able to make this crap. Okay, I'm not gonna do this. I'm not surviving this one. I know for sure. Hopefully, maybe I'll be wrong. But like when you watch an E3 presentation, and then automatically say, "Oh, E3, this company won it. That's it. E3's over. This company has won E3." Like, without like knowing that, hey, guess what? This is a pre-rendered cutscene or whatever. Or like, oh, like, who cares who won? Oh, okay, yeah, I'm definitely not gonna win this one. Excuse me. I'm definitely not gonna. I knew I wasn't gonna win it, but I was. You get A for effort. Like, I never understood that. Like, I like all systems. I like all games.
Get away from her.
And I can understand why certain people only choose a specific thing, because again, not many of us can afford like $300, $400, $500 video game consoles all at once. We all have to take a side because finances. Okay, that's fine. We understand that, but there's definitely no point to be a dick about certain things just because. Like, okay, if I defend Nintendo, I'm gonna be called a Nintendo fanboy by some. But as you can see, I'm playing a PlayStation 4 game right now, and have videos of me playing like an NES game and a Switch game. So it's like, and I have a 360 too. It's like, although yeah, they're used, but they do me better than buying it new. And again, I never buy things, like, when it comes to games, there's like, I can wait until they drop down in value. And for systems, I can wait until the third or fourth wave of systems, just because, oh, okay, hold on. Because usually the first wave is usually faulty, or you know, it has some bugs or whatever on it. But either way, it's like there's no point in taking sides as long just enjoy things.
All clear, man.
Don't never be a dick
I knew
about it.
Jameson
There's
was
nothing
wrong about
you don't
you.
do it.
You're a
It
little
doesn't do
weird,
anything
but
except
you got a
like
good heart.
you know make
Have
you look like an
got
asshole.
somewhere to go?
And again,
could take care of
maybe I'm
myself.
talking out of my ass, and
sure you can,
well, then
but
again,
just in
I go
case,
on different
there's a place
tangents. So
called the
then
Feast
maybe I
Center.
am.
Seen it.
Again,
I
that's
don't
just
want
my view and
charity.
opinion.
They got the best
You know,
wheat cakes in
all
the
I can
city,
ask is
hands
hopefully
down.
you can respect that,
Mom
and
used to
hopefully
make
that you
those.
can respect others.
Haven't had any.
You know, but don't be an
Long
ass
time.
about it, saying, "Oh, this
I'll
is
check it out.
superior to that superior.
Thanks,
This is superior to that
Spider
superior. This is
guy."
better than that." And if you don't like it,
Spider
you know, screw you. You're lesser than scum or
Should be
whatever.
able to
Like,
spot the
no,
next tower
just
from up there.
enjoy it. You know, and if people don't see it that way, okay, that's fine. I don't need to waste my time and energy on this person. I'll respect it. Like, hey, you think Xbox is great? Cool, man. You know, hopefully I'll get one or Xbox Series X, whatever, or a PS5 or whatever. It's like, okay, whatever.
No.
I still have other things to enjoy. There's so many other things to enjoy, and never choose. I don't choose sides. I'll play whatever I want, whatever. And again, I can understand for some people, like why they can't, in terms of like you know, affordability. Definitely affordability. Like like I mentioned before, I'm not gonna be able to afford
modify these towers to track
4
more
or
than just
5
cars.
or multiple $300 to $400 or even you know $250 or you know definitely $300 you know priced consoles all at once. Lord knows how to make that money. I don't know how other people be able to do that, but hey, again, I was lucky enough to have a Sega Genesis and a Super Nintendo at once. But that was because luckily I have a big family.
Towers are picking up all kinds of RFID signals.
But, you know,
including one nearby.
again, that's just me. Maybe I'm grasping at straws. Maybe I'm just talking to myself. But things like that, it's interesting. You know, like, here I am. Take me as I am. No, but, oh my god. This, you know, it's just interesting. What? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. This is where this is another thing. Like, some fans would say, "Hey, Spider-Man's webbing is supposed to only last an hour." Hey, guess what? The developers needed to make something so you can, grind a little. Okay.
Wonder how many of these are scattered around the city.
Packages and tokens, whatnot. This seems feasible. Definitely something I can do, after I record this. I can, grind to just get some extra leveling.
Menu from my first real date with MJ. Wish I could have afforded someplace fancier. But she didn't seem to mind.
Made famous by Spider-Man 2 with the pizza theme. The theme of pizza.
Still there? Got a robbery a few blocks away.
Spider Cop's on it.
Okay.
Part spider. All cop.
Okay, so I located crime. There's crime happening. Alright, so this is just little... Okay, what is this? Street... Oh no, they're stealing a K jewelry store. Every kiss begins with K.
Hey, fellas.
Spider-Man! Shoot him!
And of course, hired goons have to do this. But again, wow, this is interesting little setup. Kind of like it, little confined space fighter. Not bad. Cool. Oh, that's pretty cool.
More of them? Guys.
Thank you,
the work
ladies
is
and
harder
gentlemen.
than
Oh,
legit
more
jobs.
hired
Wouldn't
goons.
need to
Okay.
be criminals.
Oh no. Again, like what you. Ooh, I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. He got owned. Nice.
All right, Yuri. I'm gonna
Again,
repair
this
the
game
last
feels
Chinatown
great.
tower
I
now.
kind of want to go back into the Arkham series just to replay those to see how the mechanics go compared to this after this many years, and also how it feels.
He's no spring chicken.
And again, maybe I'm wasting my time doing this. Again, this is just a little side project now and then.
Oh, thank God.
You know, things to
I need a
keep
drink.
occupied.
We'll all drink tonight, Yuri.
And again, I know. Oh, and again, I've said it, and I'm not gonna, I'm gonna repeat it. Definitely thank you for the positive feedback and just the overall positive reception to the Transformers retrospective video. Basically these little let's play, quick play, I guess. These quick play podcasts, because I treat these more like a podcast rather than, because I like to, talk about random things like any other podcast about random segments, so I am the first and only Let's Play podcast. Oh no, but these are mostly done, maybe to better my editing skills, but also as a little thing to do on the side while I try and decide what to focus on in terms of like what cartoon to select in my next cartoon retrospective, which is what my channel is mostly known for. Which is why I can understand that only like maybe the Let's Play stuff gets maybe only 30 views, which is fine. Again, if it's not your thing, it's cool. For me, this is more or less like an excuse just to use this, like I said many times before, as an excuse to just dust off the old Elgato capture card and just use it for a bit just to play some games, but also maybe help me get better at my editing, my editing stuff. And also, as a way to, take some time off, while I guess recharge my batteries and, before I tackle on to what my next, Saturday morning breakfast mix episode is gonna cover. I'm really fortunate to, have the fan base that I have as what some people say, oh, you need to have 25,000, you need to have a million, whatever. Like, no, I'm fine with the 1,000 fans that I have, and you know what? That's awesome. For me, that's a milestone. I'm surprised I was able to get this many people in the amount of time. It took a while. I think the YouTube channel itself is like only 4 years old, but still, like, just to get that, and it's a major milestone for me. I didn't think I was gonna be able to do that. And again, in 5 years, hey, that's fine. Again, I'm not one to rush things in terms of like, oh, if this doesn't get as much views or followers, in this amount of time, I quit. Like, no, I low and steady, because I know in time, whatever. And for me to make the Saturday morning breakfast mix, eventually I will go into a full story of why I decided to do this, but more or less, it's with good intentions. It was never to get bazillion followers or whatever. It's just something I wanted to do, to document Saturday morning cartoons. I'll tell you that, because again, we don't have that. Although, yeah, in the age of everything's in the click of a button, streaming services. As much as it's funny that streaming services have now become network television versus cable television. Remember that war, where if you didn't have cable, all you had left was basic television, satellite television, basic, terrestrial television. It was either that or cable, and that was it. And it's funny to know that after all these years, there's still that. But now it's between cable and streaming services. So, like, nothing, no matter how many things change, there's always things that still remain the same. So now with these cable companies fighting for your money, when they offer these original service or whatever, or even hard to find things, one way or the other, there's always going to be someone trying to fight for your attention, fight for your hard-earned money, be it for television, cable back in the 80s. Now it's
Just
streaming
did keep these
service
wannabe
versus
pushers in
cable,
check.
and now cable has its
What's
own
that
streaming
feeling?
service.
Do I
You know, it's
miss
bizarre,
him?
but there's always gonna be something like that. So you know, you could say that streaming service versus
Text to
cable
Yuri and the
is
cops are on their
the
way.
television versus cable of our time. And satellite is not even worth talking about, because you know, satellite dish, you know, it's great, it's okay, but when it rains, holy crap, your service is screwed. Oh my god, I can't believe I had there was a time when my family decided to get Dish Network, and it worked okay, but when it rained, guess what? All that process, all that progress, although whatever you were watching goes down down the source. That's the only thing. And again, I just play games because I enjoy them, and this for me is just an excuse to play some games, you know, but also just fill some time out before I decide on the next cartoon. I will tell you that there are 2 cartoons right now that are in my headspace in terms of like how I should tackle them. There's Mighty Orbots, which is it only lasted 13 episodes, never given a second season, so like, you know, maybe I'll tackle that. Or there was Gigantor, aka Tetsujin 23 or 28, I forget what's his Japanese name. Those are the 2 cartoons right now in my head that I want to try and tackle. I just don't know which one of the 2 I'm gonna take the reins on tackling at the moment, which is why, you know, I like to do this in between time, on top of, you know, doing my video game music podcast, you know, the Retro VGM Revival Hour. Again, here I am, you know, plugging my own stuff, hot dogging and grandstanding the only way I can. But you know, it's, you know, so I got Mighty Orbots and Gigantor in the back of my head, as well as deciding what subject to tackle on in my Retro VGM Revival Hour podcast. I already kind of know what to choose. I already kind of know what subject I'm going to choose. I just got to write down the tracks, select the tracks, and then write down the information I need before going into recording session on that. So there's still a lot for me to do on that.